Hey YouTube, this is just a quick video to show you the proper way to splice two wires. If you've ever looked under the hood of an old truck or tractor, a lot of times you'll see just a jumble of wires that have been spliced together with wire nuts, and they have electrical tape on them, and besides being dangerous, it also just looks bad, and it looks a whole lot better to get that cleaned up. Sometimes you just need to cut a wire to move it, to pull a motor, something like that, and I'm going to show you the right way to put those wires back together. I'm going to show you what tools I've got. I've got my soldering gun already heating up. I've got some 60/40 clear flux solder. I've got a pair of wire strippers. I've got a heat gun and a piece of heat shrink tubing. We're going to use that to cover the splice. And I've got my two wires. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to strip these two wires back. I'm going to go back just a little bit more than 1/2 inch, just about right there. We're going to strip that insulation back, and I'm going to twist the strands together. Okay, I've got my two wires stripped back, and the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to slide on my heat shrink tubing. You want to get that over the wire before you make the connection. Then I'm going to take my two wires and overlap them, and with my fingers I'm going to twist them together so that we've got a straight connection for the easy flow of power through that joint. And what we want here is a strong mechanical connection. So we're going to twist that nice and tight, and that's going to look just like that. Now that our joint's ready, we're going to take and prep this soldering iron. And what we're going to do, we're just going to scrape the old solder off the end, and we're going to prime that tip. Get that flux going on that and get it nice and ready to go. And the way to do this is to hold the soldering gun beneath the joint. Get it as flat as you can, and what you want is for the wires to heat up and for that to pull the solder through the joint. So we'll get some solder underneath the joint, and then as we bring the solder over the joint, you're going to see it's going to be sucked right into the joint. And pull it back, just like that. If you'll look here, you can see, if I can get the camera to focus, how that joint looks. We're soldered all the way across. The solder's been not just dripped onto the wire, which is the wrong way to make a connection, but it's actually being pulled through the connection from top to bottom, so that every little gap in those wires has been completely saturated with the solder. And we're just going to let that joint cool before we do anything else, before we move it. It'll just take maybe 30 seconds. Alright, last step, we're going to take our heat shrink tubing that we slid on the wire in the beginning, and we're going to slide it up, and we're going to center it right over the joint, just like that. Take my heat gun, and we're going to work our way with heat all around this connection. That's going to seal it in, keep water out of it, also give it a little bit more rigidity and protect that soldered joint. Well, there you go, YouTube. That's the correct way to splice a wire. That's about as professional as you can get. And that joint there is going to last a long time. It's going to be watertight. It's not going to break. It's not going to be a fire hazard. And it's going to look good.